Trump's been running circles around Democrats since he took office. The party's in shambles with record low approval. Now they're lashing out at town halls. Last night, protesters at Marjorie Taylor Greene's town hall got so wild, cops had to bust out their tasers.
Stop. Are you really doing this? Stop. Are you really doing this? Really?
Protest is outside.
Left-wing lunatics aren't just going after Republicans. The guy who tried to burn down Josh Shapiro's house was a pro-Palestinian nutjob. If you ask Jimmy Kimmel, he says if you support the MAGA agenda, you're an animal. Quote, I just don't understand how Americans can support what he's doing and the stupid stuff that he gets hung up on. There's no decency. It's just a bunch of animals, and it's disgusting. But these lovable animals have no regrets.
I hear all these stories, all these articles, all the Trump voters, they regret what they did back in 2024. I'm here to tell you, very few of them regret what they did back in 2024. The bottom line is this. If there's some idea out there that Trump voters are going around, man, I wish I had voted for Kamala Harris instead of Donald Trump, numbers say that is a fanciful universe. It really, for the most part, does not exist.
The resistance is cratering. Even Californians over it. Quote, the electorate is strikingly more likely to want a détente with the White House. Voters are also more divided on issues like immigration and climate change compared to Newsom and state lawmakers. Meanwhile, Joe Biden emerged from hibernation last night, and so's George Clooney. He went on CNN to play hero and twist the knife in Joe's back one more time.
You yourself did something that a lot of people would call brave when you wrote your op-ed.
Well, I don't know if it was brave. It was a civic duty. When I saw people on my side of the street not telling the truth, I thought that was time to...
Are people still mad at you for that?
Some people, sure. It's okay. You know, listen, the idea of freedom of speech, you know, the specific idea of it is, you know, you can't demand freedom of speech and then say, but don't say bad things about me.
Right.
Yeah, that's the deal. You have to take a stand if you believe in it. Take a stand, stand for it, and then deal with the consequences.
Clooney opened Pandora's box when he pushed Joe out the door, and the party still hasn't recovered. Now the coup masters desperate for a new leader to save the left.
We have to find somebody rather soon, you know, because we need to redo. Look, the other side, the side that I'm, that I don't support, won, and they are, you know, running through government and doing their thing. So it's our job now to put together a proper team to stand up, because we're right now polling very poorly, and, you know.
Don't count on the Democrats getting their act together anytime soon. New DNC honcho David Hogg just created a $20 million coup fund to oust older Democrats in House races across the nation. AOC showing that she won't need to dip into the coup pool, raising over $9.5 million last quarter. That's a lot. She's putting a scare into the establishment Democrats like Rahm Emanuel, who won't even say her name.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, we just learned today, raised $9.6 million during the first quarter of this year. What does it tell you about where the energy is in the Democratic Party right now, and with whom, and what her future is?
Yeah, well, let me say this about the election since November and before that. In every special election before November 2024, Democrats won specials where there was low turnout. There's a tremendous amount of energy, and it's solely focused, which is why we want this, back to your first question, as a referendum on Donald Trump and his tax.
Democrats have a problem with radicals in their party, and if they're not willing to clean house, someone else is going to have to step in and do it for them.
It's very, very bad, and something has to be done, and you're just praying that the Democratic Party will step up and find a viable candidate to compete with the right, because the reality is, even though you and I both know individuals on the left who are incredibly gifted and could do a lot of good things for this country, the fact of the matter is, are they resonating nationally? The answer at this particular juncture is no. And because it's a no, you're desperate for somebody to step up up and take the bull by the horn. So God forbid somebody like me doesn't have to.
And if all else fails, the left's gearing up for an insurrection.
We are in unbelievably uncharted territory here. And, we're approaching the point where, honestly, it's like we're all going to have to take to the streets or something.
Co-host of the All In podcast and former Democrat megadonor, Chamath P, is here. So, Chamath, first of all, we've had Sachs, we've had J-Cal on. You have played hard to get, but we got you now. So it's good to have you on the show. Are you concerned about the anger in the Democratic Party? There have been assassination attempts against Trump twice, Kavanaugh, Shapiro. People are getting tased now at town halls. You've seen the Tesla terrorism. What's going on?
Well, unfortunately, I think this is sort of the law of large numbers. So, when you amplify the rhetoric to a large degree, at the extreme tails, you're just going to have these sort of events. And I think this should sort of be a wake-up call to everybody that says we need to sort of debate ideas. We need to get back to first principles. Disrupting events or trying to hurt people will not actually accomplish much of anything. And the big problems that the country faces, there is a version of what an agenda should look like to fix it, which was Donald Trump's. That's what I got behind, and that's what I think actually is working. And I think what the Democrats need to do is, what every good company is told to do. Get back to first principles, start from the basics, and build back up solid arguments that represent decent ideas that could counteract what right now actually is quite a winning strategy from the president.
Well, Clooney, who has a beautiful hair dye job, I think it must be for the role he's playing, but he says it's not about ideas, it's about finding leaders and finding leaders fast. Who are the leaders?
Honestly, Jesse, I think that it's not obvious who they are. And the reason is because, we have in just the last few weeks, frankly, upended 50 years of economic orthodoxy. We are chartering a completely new course. And so what the Democrats will need to look for is someone that actually has a coherent point of view about the tactical nuances of what's actually happening. And I don't see that. Every time I hear from the Republicans, I see seasoned individuals who've been in the market, right? Who are building businesses with their hands. And there's an experience that comes from that then shapes your feedback loop. And I think if the Democrats continue to just fall on this rhetoric or just look for sound bites, they're missing the point. The point is that to the extent that they got something very right, what I would say they got right was they pointed the finger at the inequality that was growing in the United States. But the thing that the Trump presidency did was basically say, great, it's called MAGA, and there is a huge focus on Main Street versus Wall Street. So the question is, what are the details? And we know what the Trump version of the details are, and there are just no details, and there aren't any steady hands with experience that can give a counterfactual. And I think that's where they end up sort of losing their momentum and looking a little nuts, actually.
Right now, they're just defending Wall Street, and they haven't really come up with an argument on trade and on wages and on reindustrialization. And once they do that, maybe from a gentleman or a gentlewoman who has experience in the private sector, they can get some traction. One guy getting a lot of traction, Stephen A. What do you think about Stephen A?
I think a lot of Stephen A. Smith as an individual. I used to be a co-owner of the Golden State Warriors, so I've been in sports for about 10 years of my kind of professional working life in a small way. And in that realm, what I see from Stephen A. is a lot of honesty, the ability to say the uncomfortable thing. But I think there's a lot of nuance and a lot of knowledge that has to come behind that. And I think, that we haven't yet quite seen. And so I think it's a tough road for the Democrats, I think.
Well, I was co-owner of my daughter's volleyball team, and I would agree. CP, good to see you. Tell J. Cal and Sachs I said hi.
Thanks, Jesse.
All right, thank you. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.